Hello, and welcome to Dinar Shift, your essential source for analyzing the profound movements within the Iraqi dinar's journey and the broader context of global economic reform. Today, the conversation shifts from observation to anticipation, marking one of those truly pivotal moments where years of dedicated attention to Iraq's fiscal and political maneuvers culminate in a single, deeply significant report. This isn't just another incremental update. It's information that suggests the foundational mechanisms for Iraq's next financial chapter are not only nearing completion, but are actively being positioned for immediate activation. For those of us who have followed this narrative for an extensive period, tracing every legislative flicker, banking protocol shift, and international partnership, the goal has always been to identify the final undeniable catalysts. We've meticulously tracked the political tides and economic groundwork laid across Baghdad and the provinces. What is now emerging from reputable channels within the Dinar analysis community is, quite frankly, a potential watershed event. This particular update carries the weight of finality, suggesting that the long-anticipated elements of structural change are moving beyond the conceptual and into the executive phase, signaling that a major economic recalibration has definitively begun. The latest insights, sourced from Marx, a highly respected and long-followed commentator within the Dinar community, have delivered what many are considering a major breakthrough. This particular source is known for measured reporting, which lends substantial credibility to the current information, forcing long-time observers to take note. The core of his recent dispatch revolves around a legislative action that has historically been deemed the keystone, the singular, indispensable piece of policy needed to unify the nation's economic framework and stabilize its monetary environment for international integration. That legislative keystone is the Hydrocarbon Law, universally recognized by analysts and economists as the essential prerequisite for establishing a stable, functional, and globally recognized financial landscape in Iraq. For years, the inability to finalize the HCL has acted as a systemic bottleneck, primarily because this law dictates the crucial framework for sharing the nation's vast oil and gas revenues among the central government in Baghdad, the Kurdistan Regional Government, and all other provinces. Without a clear, federally sanctioned revenue sharing mechanism, achieving genuine national economic balance has remained an intractable challenge. The sheer gravity of the current report stems from the assertion that this fundamental, long-contested law has finally been officially signed by the Iraqi Parliament. This reported action is the domino that the financial community has been awaiting for well over a decade, representing the removal of the most significant structural impediment to Iraq's economic maturation. If accurate, this development fundamentally reshapes the entire expectation timeline for those tracking the Iraqi dinar, moving the long-term prognosis into an imminent execution phase. To fully grasp the implications of this shift, we must delve into the reported specifics, as the nuances are mission-critical for accurate analysis. Marcus Intel specifies that while the Hydrocarbon Law has indeed been signed by Parliament, it has not yet been made available to the public or officially printed in the official gazette. This distinction is exceptionally important and points directly to the strategic approach often employed by Iraq's political apparatus when handling sensitive economic reforms that could provoke immediate market reaction. This practice of executing major governmental actions behind the scenes and timing their public release with deliberate care is a recognized pattern in Iraqi governance. The intent behind this strategy is straightforward: to meticulously manage public and international expectations, prevent destabilizing currency market speculation, and ensure that a calculated, orderly transition occurs. A law that is signed but not yet published indicates that the government has moved silently into the final phase of implementation, prioritizing seamless integration over premature transparency. The silence surrounding the signed HCL strongly suggests that Iraqi officials are taking the time necessary to synchronize every vital component: the banking protocols, the international financial relationships, and the domestic economic mechanisms. This rigorous, behind-the-scenes preparation is exactly the blueprint that many seasoned analysts had predicted. It confirms unmistakable forward momentum and suggests an overwhelming commitment to control the rollout of a potentially market-shaking change to ensure its success and stability. The report intensifies further when the signed Hydrocarbon Law is directly linked to the central matter of the exchange rate, the figure that remains the focus of every dinar observer. Marcus' analysis does not stop at the legislative breakthrough but extends into a reported reinstatement range for the Iraqi dinar, citing potential 4.22 and 4.26 per single Iraqi dinar. These figures are not arbitrary but are grounded in Iraq's complex economic history and its future potential. The lower end of this range, 22, holds profound historical weight. Prior to decades of conflict, international sanctions, and political upheaval, the dinar maintained a stable value at approximately this level within a functional, globally integrated oil-driven economic system. The appearance of this figure in current intelligence signals a powerful objective: Iraq is aiming not for a speculative bump, but for a restoration of its rightful historical economic standing, validating its past strength and sovereign value. Conversely, the upper figure of 4.25 or 4.26 reflects an outward-looking perspective, suggesting that Iraq is factoring in its potential future value, not just its past. A rate in this higher range would attempt to incorporate the value of Iraq's immense, untapped natural resources, the significantly enhanced foreign investment potential unlocked by the HCL, the major infrastructure projects currently underway, and the strategic push toward diversifying the country's non-oil sectors under Prime Minister Sudani's administration. In essence, this higher projected rate range encapsulates not merely what the Iraqi economy was but a forward-looking valuation of what the nation is becoming. A country consciously preparing for a financially robust future backed by unified internal agreements and aggressive development plans. The combination of historical anchoring and future-based valuation gives the projected figures a credible foundation that transcends simple speculation, linking the rate directly to the finalized legislative cornerstone. This leads us to the crucial discussion of the timeline. According to the intel shared by Mark X, the window anticipated for the public unveiling of both the finalized hydrocarbon law and the associated exchange rate falls squarely within Q4, specifically before the calendar flips to January 1st. This timing is highly strategic and entirely consistent with Iraq's established fiscal planning cycles and government budget execution requirements. The desire articulated by Iraqi leadership to enter the new calendar year on an entirely restructured and strengthened economic foundation provides a strong logistical anchor for this time frame. All the major economic actions undertaken by Iraq, particularly throughout the preceding 12 months, have indicated a trajectory leading toward a significant economic recalibration timed to coincide with the start of a new fiscal year. By aligning the public announcement of the HCL, the exchange rate mechanism, and the necessary budget amendments within Q4, Iraq ensures that these colossal reforms can be integrated smoothly and fully into both national financial systems and the international banking network without disrupting the established yearly cycles. This places the community squarely in what can be described as the final countdown phase, where years of theory transition into the undeniable imminence of execution. For longtime analysts and devoted followers of the Iraqi Dinar's journey, this defined timeline offers far more than vague hope. It represents a narrow, focused period where the convergence of all preparatory signs points directly toward the official activation of everything Iraq has been methodically preparing behind the scenes. This specific window shifts the psychological framework from simply waiting for reform to actively preparing for the public release of that reform. For those new to the intricacies of Dinar research, understanding the profound significance of the Hydrocarbon Law is paramount. The HCL is the legal framework designed to resolve the long-standing, decade-plus political and economic disputes between Baghdad and the Kurdistan region over the control and revenue sharing of Iraq's massive oil and gas resources. Its failure to pass has been the single greatest obstruction to national economic stability and unity. The absence of the HCL created a climate where Iraq lacked coherence in its most critical revenue sector. It severely limited the willingness of major international energy corporations to commit to the long-term, large-scale investment necessary for modernizing and expanding Iraq's oil infrastructure, because the legal framework for revenue distribution was constantly inconsistent and therefore unreliable for business. The passing of the HCL, as now reported, is a powerful signal to global markets that Iraq has achieved a necessary degree of internal political stability and is genuinely prepared to responsibly legally and uniformly manage the immense wealth generated by its natural resources. It symbolizes a level of national cohesion and fundamental agreement that has been absent for years, elevating Iraq's investment profile instantaneously in the eyes of the international financial community. This legislative progress serves as a direct validation of the comprehensive reform agenda aggressively pursued by Prime Minister Sudani since taking office. Over the last year, his government has focused on internal de-dollarization, aiming to reduce domestic reliance on the US dollar to strengthen the intrinsic value and sovereignty of the dinar as the primary medium of exchange within Iraq. In parallel, Sudani's government has championed economic diversification away from sole oil reliance, expanded crucial anti-corruption operations, initiated modernization of essential infrastructure, and actively worked to create the institutional and technological groundwork required for a national currency that can credibly support a modern, internationally integrated economy with high standards of compliance. Simultaneously, the Central Bank of Iraq has moved decisively, tightening its control over official currency markets, implementing stricter limitations on unauthorized dollar usage in domestic transactions, introducing new fraud-resistant banking technologies, and enforcing international compliance standards that align Iraq with global financial expectations. All these calculated, synchronized changes, the central bank's actions, the government's de-dollarization push, amendments to the 3-year budget, and the infrastructure drive, now appear to be meticulously coordinated with the private movement on the HCL. When viewed holistically, these are not isolated reforms but components of a single, coordinated strategy, strongly indicating that Iraq has entered the final, most complex phase of a significant monetary transformation. The combination of legal finality, economic restructuring, technological modernization, and decisive political agreement converging simultaneously reinforces the strong likelihood that Iraq is on the verge of launching a significantly restructured financial system, one anchored by a demonstrably strengthened national currency. This brings the entire process into the any day now window, where the only variable remaining is the formal, carefully timed public announcement. The global implications of a dinar valued anywhere near the higher end of the reported range, specifically around 4.225, are immense. Such a move would send immediate ripples across international financial markets, instantly repositioning Iraq from a nation in recovery to a major financial force whose currency would rank among the strongest and most strategically important in the Middle Eastern region. More fundamentally, such a revaluation would offer Iraq the potential to sell its massive oil exports in a high-value sovereign currency, gradually decreasing the global energy sector's automatic reliance on the petrodollar framework. A shift of this magnitude would compel major energy, importing nations and global investors to re-evaluate their entire economic and geopolitical strategies regarding the Middle East. This one moment, the eventual public release of the finalized hydrocarbon law and the announcement of the new official exchange rate, has the capacity to fundamentally reshape trade routes, influence the global balance of power in energy markets, and redefine how world currencies interact. It underscores just how profoundly transformative this single, final act of reform is expected to be, affecting economic calculations far beyond Baghdad's borders. Mark X has rightly emphasized the necessity of maintaining caution, reminding observers that while the projected rate range and legislative status are compelling, the community must still await official public confirmation from Iraqi authorities. However, if the reports are accurate that the law is signed and the mechanisms are in place behind the scenes, the process is no longer about political decision-making, but purely a matter of strategic timing for the announcement that sets all the prepared systems into motion. A potential reinstatement rate in the mid-forward range represents a historic financial event. Many within the Dinar community have endured years of uncertainty, contradictory reporting, and global economic volatility, maintaining their conviction that the political stabilization, economic unification, and legal empowerment of Iraq would ultimately lead to this moment. They believed in the historic potential payoff rooted in the nation's vast natural resources and commitment to financial reform. If the current circulating intelligence holds true, the world may be observing the final precursors to one of the most significant monetary re-evaluations in recent history. A shift driven not by unfounded hope, but by the tangible re-emergence of a nation determined to back its currency with a revitalized, unified financial framework and immense resource wealth. This is a story about the intersection of oil politics and sovereign currency strength finally reaching its crescendo.